Delegate Albo, great to have you with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We're excited about the opening of the session tomorrow.
Well, yeah, I'm excited, but I have to take my kid to school and then drive down to Richmond here this morning, so I'm not revved up quite yet.
Oh, well, we got to get you fired up for tomorrow, David. That's why we got you on the show.
That makes him ripe for tackling transportation issues right off the bat.
Delegate Albo, we are determined that in this session we actually get a transportation plan that makes sense, as we couldn't get one in 2012, much to our chagrin. Of course, I'm originally started broadcasting in Virginia. I'm in the southeastern section in the Chesapeake, Virginia Beach area, and of course you can't get from Virginia Beach to anywhere in Virginia without the nightmare transportation quagmire and crumbling infrastructure that we have. So our question is, how are we going to solve this?
Well, we got something going on this year that we haven't had the last 3 years. Is our governor is going to reveal a transportation fix. I think he's going to do it this afternoon. And when you have leadership coming from the top like that, you can get a lot more done.
Hopefully we'll get something out of it. But, whenever this thing comes up, we get, we get Republicans saying, "Oh, we can't do a sales tax. Oh, we can't do a gas tax, and we can't do this, and we can't do that." And we get people come on the show and say, "Well, we got to find the money by saving other." I mean, this is millions and millions of dollars. So, what do you think McDonald's plan will be?
Well, it's not just millions; it's hundreds of millions or
yes.
Billions. It really
right.
Well, I think that again, I don't have any preconceived knowledge of what he's going to do, but I think that everybody realizes this problem now is so big that you can't do it without raising new revenue.
Right.
That's going to always make some people upset, but if you're a conservative, you got to also understand the laws of math.
Yes.
And the gas tax was set in 1987.
Yes.
And it was 17.5 cents.
That's correct.
It's per gallon, so it doesn't increase with inflation. And an interesting thing to note is in 1987, it cost $25,000 to pave a mile of road. Now, in 2013, it costs $80,000, but we're still only collecting 17.5 cents. So increasing the revenue coming in for transportation is not a tax increase. It's basically just keeping up with inflation. I believe that, unfortunately, that's the only way to solve the problem.
Delegate Albo, does that $80,000 include fees for organized labor construction folks, or if we looked at a different way to approach these state contracts, would we be better off?
Well, we don't have, of course, Virginia is a right-to-work state. Yeah, you can have people who are unions working on transportation contracts, but it's very rare because 95% of Virginia employees are non-union. We don't have the excess costs that other states might have because they use strictly union labor on their roads.
Well, the bottom line, Delegate Albo, is it's still $80,000 to pave 1 mile, so it's big dollars. But here's the thing: we've been advocating a gas tax here for some time. Everybody gets mad. Oh, you guys are conservatives, and why are we raising taxes? Because, as you said, part of being a conservative is understanding basic arithmetic. You got to get the money to build the roads, expand the bridges, fix the tunnels, and things like that. The other interesting thing with this 17 cents gas tax that we have, can you tell our audience what is the gas tax in North Carolina?
I don't know what it is, but it's higher. However, the price is the same.
It's 32 cents. It was 15 cents higher. If you go over the bridge from the southern part of Chesapeake into North Carolina, Nagshead or whatever, the differential in the price of gas, nothing. It's the same. So as you go up 95, you go up 64, maybe it's a few pennies, but it certainly is not 15 cents. So they're getting the tax. We aren't. I don't know whether the 15 cents ends up. Probably it ends up in Dick Saslaw's pocket with the Democratic Senate Minority Leader Saslaw, who owns a bunch of gasoline stations in Northern Virginia. Probably ends up in his pocket. Well, good for him, because I hope Dick's a businessman. I hope Dick makes more money than God, but after we fix our roads.
Well, I mean, I don't want to speak for the entire Republican caucus because certainly there are people who do not support, raising the gas tax. But like I said before, indexing is not a tax increase. I mean, I've never gone to McDonald's and said, "Hey, I'd like to buy that Big Mac and I want to pay the 1987 price." The reason we have no money for roads, and it is bad right now. In fact, a lot of people don't realize there is not one penny to build a stoplight in the entire state of Virginia right now. There is no money for secondary road construction at all. That's how bad it is. So, I mean, eventually people are going to have to decide, A, they can keep what they have, which means no more construction and deteriorating maintenance, or B, we can do something about it. I've always been a do something about it person.
Delegate Albo, we're fired up. This is why we wanted to have you on. We have rifled through Republican representative after Republican representative. You're the first one that's come to the table and talked the truth on the Straight Talk Express and said, we have a transportation crisis in the state, and the only way we're going to fix it is by taxing something because it costs $80,000 a mile to pave. And when you look at tunnel expansion or things like that, it's in the millions of dollars a mile. You're not going to find this money hidden under the seat cushions in the mansion.
Well, I mean, I tell my friends that, like we talked about before, if you're a conservative, then part of the thing is dealing with reality and telling people the truth. We need more revenue. I mean, a lot of people think they can get it by cutting other areas of government, and I think that's certainly something that should be done also. But you have to remember that we are now spending at less than 2006 levels on our general fund, which is our discretionary fund. So the state has cut billions and billions of dollars out of the budget already. Certainly there's money to be found there. There's always efficiencies, but there's not $1 billion of efficiencies in general government to solve the problem.
No, absolutely not. And again, I want to remind our listeners that are chafing out there saying, oh, my God, a gas tax. You know, you got to ask yourself, if North Carolina is 15 cents a gallon higher and the prices are essentially within pennies of each other, what has happened to that other 12 or 13 cents? North Carolina Transportation Department, they're getting the money, they're fixing their roads. We don't have it, we aren't, and so it absolutely makes no sense. And I love the analogy that you brought up. It would be like going to McDonald's and saying, I want the Big Mac for what I paid for it in '68. Makes no sense.
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure the listeners know, I mean, we're not advocating a tax increase. What I'm advocating, and I think the governor, when we find out his packages, will be something similar. They're talking indexing, and that is just bringing our road money up to the rate of inflation so that at least we're not walking backwards. And then also others, including myself, can look for additional revenue on top of that. But you have to stop the bleeding. Every year we wait, we have less money for roads.
Delegate Albo, I would ask, as a follow-up actually to something that we asked House Majority Whip Jackson Miller in the previous hour, what do you do when faced with the state Senate idea of robbing from the general fund to try and combine that with these new indexed taxes as you might propose?
Well, I mean, I think we can use some money from the general fund. Again, you can't find $1 billion out of the general fund, but the political problem with taking $1 billion out of the general fund is that one half of the general fund is education, and 25% is Medicaid.
Yep.
Unless you plan on cutting schools, and you really can't cut Medicaid because you have to meet the federal minimums or you don't get the money. So I just don't see where you're going to get $1 billion out of the remaining 25% of government.
Yeah, it's
Remember,
nonsense.
that's everything else government does. That's the environment, prisons, police. I mean, everything else government does comes out of the remaining 25%. So that's why people warn. They say, if you're trying to take the money out of the general fund, I don't think you're going to be able to do it.
Now, Delegate Albo, we all know that first of the year, more of the Affordable Health Care Act is being implemented around the country. Governor McDonnell, of course, chose not to set up the exchange. How do the other regulations and implementations of what we know commonly as Obamacare affect how you can legislate to bring new business into the state and the actual cost of doing business in the state?
Yeah, I haven't been asked that question before.
Well, now you have.
Yeah. In my law firm, we're a small law firm, and we have like 20 employees. We don't come under Obamacare because you have to hit 50 before you have to provide the free medical care or the program or pay a penalty. I can tell you that employers I know who are at the 50 mark are already starting to figure out they're going to lay some people off, or they're going to put people part-time because they can't afford the health care that's required by this law. So I think that Virginia won't be competitively disadvantaged because every state and every business everywhere has to live with this law, which I just totally do not like.
Yeah.
So I don't think it puts us at a competitive disadvantage only because every state's got to do it.
Delegate Albo, I would ask you, even as a small government advocate, is there a way to legislate around the Affordable Health Care Act in such a way to make Virginia even more of an attractive business environment than it already is?
I don't know. What kind of idea do you have? I mean, I just don't see how you can get. I don't see how you can get around it. We passed a law that said you can't force somebody to buy something, which was health care. We took it all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. We lost. I disagree with the United States Supreme Court decision, but I honor our country, and that's what the law is, and you have to live with it.
All right, then how about this idea? Yeah. How about the suspension of certain business taxes?
Well, I mean, if you suspend certain business taxes, then you have less revenue for government. If you have less revenue for government, you can't build roads.
Well, we already have no death or probate tax in the state of Virginia. How about selectively looking at what we can do from a tax base side of things to attract more business to the state?
Okay, that's what you mean.
See?
Well, Virginia is number 3 to do business in the country according to CNBC and number 1 according to Forbes.
And we're proud of that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason is, number 1, we don't have unions. That's the number 1 reason why businesses come here. Number 2, we have educated workforce. We have a great court system. People don't realize what our wonderful court system in Virginia does for business. Businesses want to move here because they get treated fairly and quickly. And we have one of the best school systems in the country. Those 4 things always rate Virginia one of the best places to do business, and that brings in business. We have the 4th lowest corporate income tax. I mean, there are states that don't have any, but amongst the ones that have it, I think ours is like 4th lowest. So if you wanted to do some tax policy that might attract more businesses, you could consider lowering the corporate income tax.
Well, we'll never end up being a Nevada or a Delaware, though, without one, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, without gambling or something that brings in so much money that you can get rid of the corporate income tax. It brings over $1 billion a year into the state.
Well, I think you summed it up. Delegate David Albo from the 42nd District. He's a Republican, getting set for tomorrow's opening of the 2013 Virginia General Assembly convening in Richmond. And Delegate Albo, we want to thank you for your candor here on the John Fredericks Show. And I tell you what, we're going to make you an honorary member of the Straight Talk Express. David Albo, giving it to you straight. No nonsense, no gibberish. You want to fix your transportation in this state, which is a catastrophe, you got to raise the money. We're for a gasoline tax because North Carolina and Dick Saslow is getting cash. Dave Albo, thank you.